Good evening. My name is Guy-Uriel Charles, and I am a law professor at Harvard Law School. And it is my distinctive pleasure to introduce one of this world's legal giants and public intellectuals. Few individuals, intellectuals, academics have changed how society thinks about an issue or a problem as Professor Kimberlé W. Crenshaw. She is a shaper of worlds, shaper of imagination, and a paradigm shifter. She has shifted how we understand a set of fundamental problems, a set of fundamental questions, and brought us insight where we did not think possible. Professor Crenshaw is the Promise Institute Chair of Human Rights at UCLA Law School, Isadora, and the Seville Sulzbacher Professor of Law at Columbia Law School. She holds chaired professors at two distinguished law schools. She is also the co-founder and executive director of the African American Policy Forum, one of the country's leading social justice think tanks, and the faculty director of the Center for Intersectionality and Social Policy at Columbia Law School. I have had the privilege of teaching as well as reading Professor Crenshaw's work. And I can say that it is as insightful, impactful, intellectually demanding, soul rewarding as one could imagine. She is one of the founders of critical race theory and a leading Black feminist. There truly is no area of legal work that her scholarship, her words have not shaped and influenced. It is Crenshaw's work that has helped us to understand how legal formality, the role that law plays in repackaging legal remedies as racism. In an interview last year with the 19th, Crenshaw offered succinct definitions of both critical race theory and intersectionality. So here for a moment, we're going to use her words and we're going to go to school for a brief second. And I promise not to charge you tuition. She defined critical race theory as the study of how and why patterns of race inequality continue to reproduce themselves more than 60 years after the passage of civil rights laws. Right. Why is it that notwithstanding formal equality, we still have structural inequality? So she says, look at the rules, practices, conventions, and law that allows for and facilitates a whole range of racial disparities. Critical race theory looks at how all of this happens, the justifications for it, and provides a diagnosis of the problem as well as the solution. This happens to be one of the most dangerous areas of study in not just our country, but in our world, apparently. In that same interview, she also defined intersectionality. Intersectionality, she said, is a concept that says that discrimination, inequality, marginalization often is not a singular dynamic. They exist in ways in which multiple forms of disadvantage impact people's lives. Intersectionality is an effort to make sure that no one is left out of commitments to equity, inclusion, and non-discrimination. What a fundamental goal and ideal. Professor Crenshaw argues that it is crucial for us to understand the ways that law is not neutral, that it frames actions, individuals, consequences, and it does so in very specific and particular ways. And we must understand the way that law interacts with race, gender, class, sexual orientation, and other types of identities. So if you want to understand fundamental inequality, you have to understand the way that law mediates that inequality. Her scholarship brings to light the ways in which Black women and girls historically have enjoyed far less protection under the law than their white sisters and their Black brothers. In a profile of her in The Guardian, Amma Modine wrote, for Crenshaw, her rewriting of history that centers the violence Black women experience is crucial for taking the Black freedom struggle forward. And so we know Say Her Name, for example, through her activism as well as her scholarship. She is responsible for several now foundational books and articles. The power of her work, of course, has given rise to predictable political criticism. I remember hearing the controversy about critical race theory, and it really surprised me, quite frankly, as a legal academic, because understanding and teaching that critical race theory is simply explaining the way that law interacts with race to subjugate and mediate and think through equality. I was surprised by what is it about this that is so controversial. And if you've read any of Professor Crenshaw's work, it is surprising that, one, people would have a cursory understanding of that work, and two, that they would object to the deep truths that are found in her work. And so she's been criticized by a former president, a current governor, many school boards, but also the essential lessons that we take out of her work has empowered many generations, many students, many academics, and 300 or so high school students who are here today with their dedicated teachers and administrators show us that they are hungry for opportunities to learn about what truly is, a person who truly is a legend and a heroine for the work that she has done. Her work in the legal academy and the public sphere continues to transform our world, despite the best efforts of others to silence her. She has published in every major law review. She's the recipient of several prestigious awards. She has had an international impact, and her work on intersectionality was influential in the drafting of the Equality Clause in the South African Constitution, and was instrumental in ensuring that gender was included in the UN's 2001 World Conference on Racism's Declaration. For more than 30 years, Professor Kimberlé Crenshaw has given us the tools to understand gender inequality, to understand racial inequality, to understand how various forms of inequality intersect with one another, and how we can change and empower ourselves by changing the law. The Hutchins Center presents the W.E.B. Medal to Kimberlé Crenshaw for her transformative legal scholarship, her fierce commitment to truth, and her extraordinary bravery. Professor Crenshaw. Thank you.